double meaning or the double entendre example. So sometimes the Quran can use a word that has two meanings at the same time, and it kind of keeps the reader on edge as to which meaning is intended. And this is called a tawriya, actually, and this is mentioned. Another example, let me give you an example of this in English literature that's quite interesting. In Romeo and Juliet, Mercutio says he's going to die tomorrow, and so he said tomorrow is going to be a grave day. So in this context, grave has two meanings. Grave is like it's a serious day, but it also means that I'm going to die tomorrow because I'm going to be in the grave. The Quran does that in many different places. حتى زرتم المقابر, until you visit the graves in the Quran. Does it mean you're going to die, or when you actually visit the graves? Or other things like that, which are very interesting, like this thing called al-muqabala, which I found quite interesting, which is like, if you want juxtaposition, but it's very precise type of juxtaposition. So the Quran has tibaq, which is like, okay, sometimes it uses the good and the bad, good and it's literally opposites that are mentioned in the same sentence. But the Quran does also, like, for example, it uses al-muqabala, which is mentioning opposites in sequence with each other. So for instance, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ الْعُسْرَى. So you have أعطى, whoever's generous, وَاتَّقَى, and was God conscious, وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى, and he was believing in the truth, so we will guide him to the good way. So there's four things that I mentioned here. And whoever was stingy, bakhila, wastaghna, wakaththaba, is the exact opposite of those four things. And you might think that's kind of unremarkable at first glance, but the fact of the matter is that this is happening at the same time as a rhyme scheme happening at the same time, certain meanings being portrayed. It shows you that really, what are you saying about the Prophet's ability to articulate himself in a language if you indeed believe this was the Prophet Muhammad? Are you telling me that he was able to create all of these rhetorical devices? Wallahi, I think this is the most, in many ways, why I found this was quite powerful, and we're doing like a Sapiens course on it. Inshallah, like one of my objectives, I want to do like a Sapiens course on this. Sapiens Institute is the institute that we do like courses and stuff. Is because it strikes at the heart as to why is the Quran truly a miraculous text? You know, and there's many of these examples. There's so many of these examples, and some of them are quantifiable. Like some of them you don't even need. They're not they're not something which requires a subjective value judgment of any kind. Like, I'll give you an example of this. And I gave this example to a few friends of mine, but I'll mention it to you too. In Surah Al-Mujadila, in chapter 58 of the Quran, there's a verse that says, "Istahwada alayhim shaytan, fa'ansahum dhikrullah." That the shaitan, he overcame them, and so he made them forget his mentioning. Okay. I have found that Surah Al-Mujadila, I think, is composed of 30 ayahs. But chapter 58 of the Quran, the word Allah is mentioned in every single verse. It is mentioned in every single verse. قَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّتِي تُجَادِلُكَ فِي زَوْجِهَا وَتَشْتَكِي إِلَى اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ يَسْمَعُ تَحَوُّرَكُمَا. And so on and so forth. If you look at every single verse of that surah, the word Allah is mentioned. And so it's as if Allah, because the verse near the end of the surah says that the shaitan made them forget the remembrance of God, he is reminding us of his remembrance, but in such a subtle and understated and beautiful way. And you don't find the Prophet in some hadith saying, go and see this and go and see that. It just so happens that this is the case. But that's why I feel like there's a lot that I've learned that I want to be able to convey to the public in the English language, bring examples from English literature, compare them with the Quran, because there's a lot one can learn from that, from the Quran. It's not just guidance that you can learn from the Quran. It's rhetoric as well, it's eloquence. Like there's so many rhetorical questions that the Quran uses. The way the rhyme scheme is in the Quran, the prolonged rhymes versus the shortened rhymes, and so on and so forth. But this requires maybe a longer discussion. But I feel like that was of all the things I did in the 4 years of that particular degree, that was my favorite thing.
balagha.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. Yeah, one of the things that I also find miraculous about the Quran, along the lines of what you mentioning about balagha, is that just like you said, it's latif, like there's subtleties, and you can appreciate it. Like two people can read the same surah or the same ayah, and the two people are completely different levels of intelligence, education, but they both will find that surah or that ayah profound, and it will speak to them. They will understand maybe different things from it, they'll take different benefits from it, but they will still appreciate it and be amazed by it, despite their it's the same ayah, it's the same surah. Whereas if when normal people talk, like for example myself or yourself, if we try to be more sophisticated like in our speech, or more educated and make a subtle point or a complicated point, or we use sarcasm for example,
Mm.
we alienate a lot of people. Like a
Yeah.
large number of people don't get it, or they don't understand, they don't appreciate it, and they're actually turned off by it. Or vice
Mm.
versa, if you speak too simply, then some people who are more educated, they will say this is, well, this is just like simplistic, this is just elementary, like who cares.
Mm.
But the Quran is not like that. No matter what walk of life, what background, what IQ level education, it's still going to impress you, amaze you, make you reflect, you appreciate it regardless, and get benefit from it. So that's something also. So are you going
I
to?
think it's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like for example, also it teaches you how to speak with etiquette. Like now that's something I need to learn more of. I have to, say, but for example, euphemisms. This idea that the kinaya, al-kinaya في القرآن الكريم, or euphemisms, like where it says, a very famous verse that hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahunna, that they are a garment for you and you're a garment for them. Now that's a kinaya, it's a euphemism for sexual intercourse, but it has so much more profound meanings. It's not you're just in a sexual relationship with the husband and the wife. You're also covering her back, and she's also covering your back from other more spiritual and psychological perspectives. So it's even the use of that, because you know they have many euphemisms in the English language, and they're quite vulgar actually. So it's you're finding the Quranic etiquette is like don't speak about, and this is something maybe I should definitely take it, is don't speak about the sexual stuff too explicitly. I mean, someone like someone like me needs to learn from them. But on the other hand, when the Quran wants to make a very decisive point, it will make a very decisive point. It will, you know, threaten somebody. It will, do you know what I mean? So it has both. And you mentioned sarcasm. This is actually one of the rhetorical devices as well. And there is this one technique, الذم بما يشبه المدح, which is a kind of, it's a very specific, الذم بما يشبه المدح, very specific type of sarcasm, which is that you are dispraising someone with that which looks like a praise. And for example, in the Quran where it's mentioned, ذُقْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْعَلِيمُ, that taste. So this is a person in hellfire. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْكَرِيمُ, that you are the one who is mighty and generous. So it's a kind of sarcasm. So since you were so generous, okay, here's the food. It's kind of like an offering to you. Here in the hellfire, you can have it because you are so insincere. But the way it's done, okay, is really powerful. And obviously, Allah is the mutakallim. He's the one who's speaking here. And so it's Allah can speak to his servants in whichever way he wants, because and it's so powerful how that pans out, because if you look at how the Quran speaks, like how Allah speaks to believers versus how he speaks to disbelievers, versus, it's all different. And I was even thinking about something else in some tadabbur of Quran that I was doing, which is how Allah speaks about the human being psychologically, like the psychological assessments of the human being, as per, like for example, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا. The human being is born in an anxious state. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. The human being is weak. The human being is kafur, ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. He's also ignorant, etc. There's a lot of dispraise of the natural disposition of the human condition. وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. The human being is very argumentative. That he can't resist being argumentative. So there's very interesting things about the human condition. So it's kind of Allah is outlining to us some of the weaknesses, and I find this is a very powerful thing. I think there needs to be some kind of dirasa, some kind of study, about how Allah describes the human being. It's fascinating as well.